Here she comes. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and guests. Tonight, I have the privilege of introducing Norm Thibodeau. Norm will be doing from the Pathways Innovative Planning, Level 1, he will be doing his icebreaker. This is an expanded project, so Mr. Timer, can you please give Norm 5 to 7 minutes target time? Norm is doing his icebreaker. However, it is his 19th icebreaker. So I think he's probably got a little bit of experience. And I'm looking forward to hearing his speech. His speech title is called Old Dogs, New Tricks. And at the end of his speech, we're going to follow the tradition of doing a standing ovation because it is an icebreaker. So if you guys could please stand at the end of Norm's speech, that would be much appreciated. So without further ado, Norm Thibodeau, Old Dogs, New Tricks. Old Dogs, New Tricks, Norm Thibodeau.
Thanks, Carrie. When you all stand up at the end, it's probably because you're going to be walking out. You're going to be totally bored with me. They say you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but some old dogs and some new tricks might just surprise you. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. Just to put things in perspective, at 72 years, I'm sure you'd agree I qualify as an old dog. But when I spot a new trick that I think can benefit me and or others, I stick to it just like a deer tick on a bulldog. The Cross-Cultural Understanding Pathways project is one of those new tricks I found a few years ago when I was working on my strategic relationships path and pathways. It impressed me so much that I committed to redoing it every couple of years just to remind myself of the lessons that I learned in it. And this is I think my third or fourth redo of the project. I'm doing it as my icebreaker with our club tonight. This project opened my eyes to the diversity of culture. Not so much regarding my appreciation of diversity, but in understanding how stereotypes most likely impact how others see me, which is very important when you're trying to build relationships with people. I was brought up in a mostly white neighborhood, but had early interactions with people of color that left an indelible mark on me.
This is Hartford Healthcare with a message for Deborah reminding you about an up.
Sorry about that. The phone is going off in the background. As a kid, my family didn't have a lot. So if we kids wanted to buy anything for ourselves, we had to work to earn a little spending money. So from about 8 to 12 years old, I worked for a farmer by the name of Mr. Morgan. Mr. Morgan and his wife and 3 kids, 3 daughters, owned a mid-sized farm in our neighborhood. Now, the Morgans were African American, and this was my first interaction with people of color. I have to tell you, I found Mr. Morgan to be one of the best examples of integrity, honesty, and industriousness that I ever met in my short life. I would have to compare him very much to my father in that respect. He was a hardworking family man, and his family treated me like I was one of their own. So essentially an extension of the stewardship I enjoyed with my own family. So I never grew up with any kind of a negative stereotype for people of color. And when I heard others around me, friends even, disparaging people of color, it always bothered me. It really just bothered me. As a sidebar, just to clarify what we mean by stereotypes, one of the references that I used in researching this project described them this way. And I want to quote this. To begin to understand the impact of expanding your personal view of culture, it's important to recognize the most common and damaging challenge to valuing cultural diversity. Cultural stereotypes are common beliefs that can derail even the most well-intentioned communication. A cultural stereotype is an overgeneralized belief about how people of another culture behave. Stereotypes are often negative misrepresentations, but Even positive stereotypes can be offensive because they disregard the differences that exist among individuals. Very important definition of stereotypes. So this Understanding Cultural Diversities project guided me to identify my own cultural identities and then to research the associated stereotypes with those cultural identities. And this is where I found some new tricks to learn. I honestly always thought of stereotypes as applying to other people, not to me. So this research was quite eye-opening. And I want to show you, I'm going to screen share, I want to show you the cultural map that I developed as part of this project. And let me share my screen. This is a part of the project. And if you do this project, you'll do this on your own as well. And I'm sorry, I can't find it in my screen share. There it is. Is everybody seeing my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this was the cultural identity map that I made for myself. And first, you need to list out some cultural identities that you have. And then you can go online and research what are the stereotypes associated with these identities. And you can see there's a lot of stereotypes associated with each of these things that I identify myself with. I identify myself as male, white, short and round, American, Catholic, spouse, parent, project manager, and I've since added a few more, but I wanted to keep this simple for tonight. So, and these are the stereotypes that other cultures, other people may be thinking of and have me branded as when I'm trying to build relationships with them. And one of the things I did after doing this research is I went through this map and I said, okay, which ones of these do I think actually apply to me? And it's a pretty small subset. That looks like this, the one shaded in yellow. So all of these other stereotypes that are commonly associated with my cultural identities are not things that I espouse to or even believe in. Yet when I'm building relationships with other people, I have to keep in mind that these may be the things that they're thinking about me. I don't want to talk any more about this because if you get to do this project yourself, which I highly encourage you to do, you'll go through this yourself as well. And did I stop sharing? Is it back off the screen?
Yes.
Okay, great, thanks. So in summary, I never realized how many cultural identities I identified with, and more importantly, the associated stereotypes with those identities that most likely impact how others see me. And this is very important, again, when you're trying to build relationships with people, which is something very important to me. I'm a project manager by trade, as most of you are. And I've always felt that my project teams, the people were more important than the project itself, because projects come and go, but the people you're going to work with for a long time. So building relationships is very, very important. But this speech isn't just all about me. I would urge each and every one of you, you're all Toastmasters and you're all in Pathways. I would urge each of you to consider doing a cross-cultural understanding project as an elective in your own Pathways path. It's not currently available in any other path than strategic relationships. I've discussed this actually with the past international president of Toastmasters, Richard Peck, happens to be in one of my Toastmasters clubs. And he said that they're looking into making this an elective in all other paths. And I really think that they should, because I found it very, very enlightening. I think that you will too. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.